The biggest update this year to the new iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max is the new wide-angle sensor. Compared to the last generation on the 15 Pro and Pro Max, you're essentially going from a 12 megapixel sensor to a new quad-Bayer 48 megapixel sensor. Now, unfortunately, based on my tests, this new sensor is not the exact same quad-Bayer 48 megapixel sensor that you see in the main camera. That sensor performs much better. But that's not to say that the new wide-angle sensor isn't better than the last generation. It definitely is. So let's go through some of the tests that I show you on why this sensor is an improvement. First up, we do see an increase in sharpness for our 4K videos. In your Blackmagic camera app, you are able to do a sensor crop. So going from 0.5 to 1x, this is about as much as you're going to want to crop on the wide-angle lens while still maintaining some sharpness. As you go higher, that's where we start losing the edge sharpness. But to prove our point here, as we go into 8x, this is where we can see that the new 48 megapixel sensor is giving us a sharper and more detailed image compared to last year's 12 megapixel sensor. Next up is ISO performance, in which case we do see a nice improvement. So last year's generation, at ISO 100, you're already starting to see some sort of blocking artifact in my noise floor test when I boosted the noise floor pretty high. And we don't really start seeing any noise creeping in until ISO 400 for the new iPhone 16. So that's essentially a two-stop improvement in terms of how noisy the shadows can get. Now, granted, if you are in like a regular situation shooting at those ISOs, that's something well lit, you're probably not going to notice anything. That's only in low light if for some reason you are shooting at ISO 400 and you decide to boost later, then the new iPhone 16 is going to technically perform just a little bit better. Last thing that I noticed is the color rendition of the videos. There is a subtle difference between the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 16, and this is probably because of the quad Bayer having more pixels that are looking at colors and trying to figure out how it's going to go through the image pipeline to feed you out a 4K video. So the one thing that I noticed is when it comes to the color green, specifically right now as we're about to go into the fall. So on the iPhone 15, the greens are coming out more green, while the iPhone 16 is giving me that subtle hint of yellow. And basically the yellow is true to form based on how the light was coming down as we were going into the evening hours, and also just because the leaves are indeed changing. As far as skin tones go, with the Apple Log LUT that I created last year, it still plays very well with the new sensor. Nothing seems to be going off. My skin tone looks correct. All the other colors are interpreted correctly. So if you do want to buy this LUT, I do have a purchase link down below if you're interested. As for the main 24 megapixel sensor, it is technically a new and faster sensor, allowing you to shoot at 4K 120p. And yes, your Blackmagic camera app already allows you to shoot this in HEVC. You don't have to shoot it in ProRes. That's how I shot with it. But other than that, nothing else has changed. I think it's just a faster sensor readout in terms of processing. The colors, everything else looks exactly the same. Dynamic range still basically coming in at 12 to 13 stops. So yeah, no improvements there. All the iPhone Pros now have the 120mm 5x telephoto lens, and this one they literally did not change anything at all. It looks exactly the same and performs exactly the same. One thing I remember them saying in the keynote was that I think there's a new anti-glare coating on the iPhone 16. And based on my tests between the 15 and the 16, just having a little light shining right at the lens, they seem to perform exactly the same. Now, there might be situations where maybe you're outside and the sun is setting over here and it's kind of shooting into it, possibly glaring up your image. In those specific situations, maybe it does perform a little bit better. But as far as just the tests that I performed, they seem like they perform exactly the same as the last generation. All that to say, the new iPhone 16 Pro Max definitely is improving on the camera and its abilities, but that's not to say that the old iPhone 15 Pro is a slouch. It still is a very good camera, whether you're just wanting to use it for basic content creation, family videos, what have you. Both of these are gonna do just fine. But if you want just a little bit more quality, then the new wide-angle lens definitely is performing a lot better than the last generation. So if you're thinking about using your iPhone for video, I would highly suggest you check out the Blackmagic Camera app. It's free, it's very powerful. I also have a very quick video to teach you how to use it in terms of like where everything is. And if you are completely new to filmmaking and need to understand the basics of just how to do it, I have a 2-hour filmmaking course that only costs you $30, and it will teach you all the essential knowledge you need to know. And yes, all of them do translate over to the iPhone. Other than that, I hope this video has been helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one.